Welcome to CISM Perspectives. I'm Dr. Victor Welzant with ICISF. Today we're going to talk about the important role of sleep and the connection between sleep and stress, particularly with working in a prolonged event, such as the pandemic or events where you're working multiple shifts. Sleep can really become an issue. It can be an issue day to day for any of us as well. One of the things we know is that sleep is really important because it restores and replenishes us and really replenishes energy physically. Very important. Psychologically, it's also a time when we process stressful events, especially during deep sleep. And if we're not getting that, it becomes even harder to kind of bounce back, to process trauma, to process stressful events. And we all know that when we don't get enough sleep or get enough quality sleep, it can really give us problems with our performance, particularly cognitive changes, trouble concentrating, trouble with memory. We know coordination and reflexes get impacted even with as little as 24 hours of disrupted sleep. And sometimes that can lead to really bad decision making. And certainly we know that in many professions, there have been studies looking at the risk of accidents and mistakes being made when we're under stress. If we're chronically not sleeping, we also contribute to a lot of health risks. Many health conditions are impacted by sleep. And it's also important to recognize that not sleeping or having trouble sleeping, having a change in your sleep, really can be a sign. It's a way of your body and mind talking to you, saying there is something going on. It's one of the most common mental health symptoms. Difficulty sleeping can be connected with anxiety and depression. And so it's really important to keep an eye on your sleep. Lots of reasons sleep can get disrupted. I mean, we talked about stress, worry, sometimes shift work, and particularly the call volume on your shift can have a lot to do with how much you sleep when you're at work. Given the climate today, with all the financial impact of COVID, people sometimes need to work a lot of overtime, and that can, over the long haul, impact how much sleep you have. It's also hard because we have competing responsibilities. It's not like we can go to work and then just go home and go to bed all the time. We have family responsibilities, other responsibilities, and especially if we're working a lot of extra hours, extra shifts, trying to get all that done and still have time for good sleep can be really hard. Another reason that it's hard to sleep has to do with habits that we have. There are certain habits that make it less likely to get good sleep. One of those is the use of stimulants like caffeine or energy drinks too close to bedtime. Any excessive use of any of the stimulants, nicotine, caffeine, any of them, can really disrupt our sleep cycle. So you want to be mindful of that, pay attention to how much you're taking in. And another reason is that we have trouble sleeping is difficulty relaxing, difficulty winding down at the end of the day. So let's talk about just a few tips that you can use if you are noticing some challenges with sleeping or sleeping through the night. One of the first things is to just monitor your sleeping. Take a week, write down how much you sleep, how many times you wake up during the night. Get a sense of what your pattern is. Really helpful to have a regular sleep routine. So going to bed at the same time and trying to wake up at relatively the same time. Sometimes just doing that alone can stabilize a sleep cycle. Already mentioned trying to avoid caffeine and other stimulants. Some people find that lowering the temperature in the room where you're sleeping can actually promote sleep, as well as trying to get the room as dark as possible. Anything you can do to make it dark, and along with that, avoiding using screens or screen time right before bed. So falling to sleep watching the television may at one level be relaxing, but a lot of screen time often promotes alertness and makes it harder to go to bed. It's also helpful to look at some of the habits we have just day to day, like our use of exercise. Exercise can really be helpful to promote sleep, but it's also important not to do it too close to when you go to bed because of its stimulating effect. It's also good to avoid alcohol if you're having a problem sleeping, because although some people, when they take in alcohol, it slows them down and they fall asleep. The problem is that it disrupts the actual length of time you can sleep and the quality of your sleep. So it prevents people from entering that deep sleep, or what we call REM sleep, that allows you to process, and that can really interfere significantly. One last thing is that regardless of how you're sleeping at night, one thing that can be really useful are brief naps during the day when you can work that in. Even 15 to 20 minutes can be very restorative. So wish you good sleep, wish you well, please stay safe. And I'm Victor Welzant from ICISF, and this is CISM Perspective.